Yeah, welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Got a pretty interesting show for you here today. This one might be a little shorter than they usually are. Only got two topics today. My man G's not going to be with us. He's got some things going on, but I have got a great guest joining us. It's former University of North Florida Osprey, former Atlantic Sun Defensive Player of the Year, all-time UNF shot blocking leader, and former professional basketball player, Alwajidaminu. So we're going to talk, and he's going to give us some thoughts that you can't get anywhere else. So just hang with me. But before we get to all that, you know what time it is. If you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please make sure you go ahead, click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. Make sure you're kept up to date whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio-only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in The Format Podcast, and we should come right up. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you give us that like, that 5-star review, and drop a comment. All that stuff helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. And finally, make sure you write it down, put it in your phone, set an alarm, do whatever you got to do to remember. Saturday nights at 7 p.m. we are live here on the Format Podcast, and we'll give you the opportunity to call in, talk to us, get at me. I love it. I can't wait. All right, so last couple of weeks, we've definitely had some technical difficulties with the phone lines, people trying to call in saying they weren't able to get through. So I did some testing and worked on that, so hopefully we'll be all good tonight. But I'm going to go ahead and bring in Alwajidaminu. If you're in the chat, make sure you hop in the chat, let us know where you're coming in from, and yeah, stick around. We got a pretty good show. All right, let's get right to it. Al, what's good, my brother?
What's good, man?
maintaining, man. Listen, so grateful for you taking the time to join us today, man. Did I get that right in the intro? 1 or 2 time Defensive Player of the Year?
It was one time. I guess I got robbed the second time.
Right. Yeah. So I had the honor of covering you when you played at our alma mater, UNF, University of North Florida, man, and it was definitely a pleasure being there and getting to watch you play and do your thing. And then as I was telling you before we got online here, just taking the time and watching some of your highlights from overseas. This is you in Estonia. Like I said, just watching you took your game to a next level as a professional, clearly bigger and stronger. And obviously, I guess that comes from, just a different amount of time you have to put into your craft and into your body as a professional player, more explosive off the dribble, more reliable 3-point shot, man. So, yeah, absolutely. It was great catching up with you again. And I'm so glad you're here. So let's get right to it, man. So first thing we want to talk about is the NBA AllStar Game, man. So I've been complaining about the state of the NBA for years, and people just say, oh, you're an old head hater. You just can't accept that the game has changed. All right, cool. Whatever you say. If you want to say that, okay, I can deal with that. But the fact is this, it's not my opinion, but the current state of the NBA All-Star Game, the past 2 years have been the worst ever in terms of viewer ratings. And people are they're not caring anymore. Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, he sees how bad it is in terms of, he almost was basically begging for the players to be the All-Stars this past season to be more competitive. He brought in Reggie Miller because the game was in Indianapolis. So he had Reggie Miller and Oscar Robertson and Larry Bird, all, Indiana legends. He had all these guys kind of really host the thing and try to push these young guys to be more competitive and give us a more compelling show. But that's actually not what happened. We saw, 211 to 187, highest scoring All-Star game in history. And it literally was so bad, Al, that I think they had to cover the scoreboard because no NBA game had ever gotten to 200 points before. So crazy, right? First thing I'm going to ask you, man, is why do you think the All-Star Game has fallen off so much? I mean, when I was coming up, and I'm considerably older than you, but it used to be incredible, man. Tell me why you think it's fallen off so much.
I mean, I feel like it's kind of obvious. It's like money involved and like players going and getting their own individual bag, which, I mean, I understand. But the thing they like you may not notice is media when they talk about players being injured and getting hurt and how that affects deals. Like you see deals being affected because they talk about, oh, they shouldn't give this player that much money because you can't rely on them being on the court. They're always hurt, stuff like that. And so you see like NBA owners starting to put things in contracts, so that they don't have to pay players when they're hurt. And so an all-star game, you look at it as an opportunity to, kind of have some fun. But if you get hurt in an all-star game and you kind of mess up the rest of the season, like an NBA owner might be upset with how you went so hard in the all-star game, but you weren't able to take the team to the finals or something like that. And then you just kind of factor in, all right, like today's NBA has a lot more highlights. I mean, it's just regular season games, just absolutely ridiculous highlights. And you used to see
Mhm.
those in all-star games, probably in the 2000s and the 2010s, where, you just saw some special stuff in the all-star games and you were just like, man, wow, like these dudes are ridiculously skilled, ridiculously talented. They can just do things that like you they're one of one basically. And since you see those in regular season games, and I mean it's just so many highlights that it's like, man, what's another one? Like, they're out there kind of trying to be creative. All right, let me try, this step back, 360 spin, shot like this. And because there's just so much highlights, and that's kind of the space the NBA is in, that's what they try to give in the All-Star game. And I mean, it's not much different than a regular season game.
So, all right. So, two things, right? So, the first thing is you mentioned guys are afraid of being hurt. I want to defer to you as a player, but I can't agree with you on that. And the reason I can't agree with you, I'm 45 years old, so I've been watching the All-Star game that I can remember probably since like 91, right? Maybe a little earlier than that, but distinctly remembers like back to that point. We've never seen a player get hurt in an All-Star game, and them dudes used to play hard. Like I was watching a clip of something today, and you saw Scottie Pippen and Charles Barkley. Man, these dudes were fighting for position in an All-Star game, like it was an NBA Finals. And I mean, it was legitimate, like really fighting for position, going at it. And so that whole thing of guys are concerned about getting injured in an All-Star game, I can't really buy that because I've never seen it happen, even in a much more physical era. So I can't really go with that. Second, the highlight thing. Okay, that's cool. Guys are trying to be creative and do stuff that you don't see in regular games. I got you on that. Except here's my other problem. Just because you're trying to do that, if I'm on the opposite team, I don't have to let you, right? I still got a job to do. That's go out there and try to defend and try to stop you. I don't have to allow you to do that, even though you're trying to put on a show. Because my part of the show is to try and stop you. And guess what? If you get it off, that makes the show even better. It makes the show worse if I just let you do whatever you want to do. Thoughts on that?
I mean, just like I said, especially it's the highlight culture, like if you get embarrassed on a highlight,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I mean,
So what? Go get them back on the other
Anthony
end.
Edwards, the way he dunked on John Collins, like,
Right.
like people, I mean, they're gonna troll him probably for a good month on social media
Mm-hmm.
about how he got dunked on.
Mm-hmm.
What's his gosh, I can't think of his name right now, but Kyrie crossed up Brandon something. I can't think of it.
Yeah.
But like,
Brandon Jennings.
yeah, no, maybe
Brandon
not
Knight. Brandon Knight. Yep.
Brandon Knight. Yeah,
Yep.
Brandon Knight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still
I
have it in my
remember that.
mind to this day.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm seeing it. I'm picturing it right now.
yeah. Like, you don't want to be getting embarrassed like that. And so,
Yo, but that's part of the game, though. Sometimes you're gonna get caught out there. Like it happens. So go out there and do your thing. Go hard. Like I don't know. I guess it's a
I'm not
different
saying it's
mentality
right.
today.
I'm just saying that's what's happening. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think it is troubling.
Mm-hmm.
And then like there's not really a huge incentive for them to go hard in the All-Star game, other than like just kind of viewership and like putting the NBA viewership on their back.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're getting their own individual bag. They got a whole bunch of sponsors, that are
Mm-hmm.
interested in them. I'm not saying that they will get hurt,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, like you see it with the NFL All-Star Game as well. Like they're playing flag football basically.
Yeah. Well,
They're not really going after it.
they got rid of the yeah. They literally changed it to flag football, which is freaking terrible. But
Absolutely, and so it's just like they know that what they do. I mean, sports in general, like
mm-hmm.
you think of athletes as being healthy people,
Mm-hmm.
but what they're doing to their bodies to play sports is not
Mm-hmm.
healthy. Is not healthy. Like you're putting your body in bad position. That's why you see them all with ice bags and stuff like that. In some part of the game, stuff like that. Like is not it's not actually good for the body what they're doing to play the sport, but that's what they do. And so with all of the body experts that they have
Mm-hmm.
working them out all year, talking about, all right, like we want to build up these muscles and stuff like that, and we want to load management, like all that kind of comes together, and they have a real idea of, I could get injured literally any moment, and if there is not enough incentive for me to like play hard,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna play hard, because me getting injured, I could possibly lose sponsorship. Like think about Derrick Rose.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he wouldn't have gotten injured, he would have been a face of the league.
Yeah,
Like
definitely. But I mean, that's just one of those things that you gotta, when you play, it's possible that it could happen. To your analogy of football and the Pro Bowl, I totally get it. But obviously, football is a way more,
absolutely.
totally more physical game. So to some extent, I get that. But again, similar thing when you are, when you sign up to play football, that could happen. Like you can't play at half speed. But that's me. Okay, so all right, so here's the deal now. Adam Silver, commissioner of the NBA, was actually talking about the possibility, because they're trying to go through every way possible to make the AllStar Game more engaging to fans and to try and get these guys to play harder. And one of the things they brought up, he didn't say it's going to happen, but it's the possibility of a USA versus international format game to try and make guys more willing to compete and to try to drum up interest, because again, like the last 2 years have been the lowest viewing ratings in All-Star Game history. So I guess my first question to you is, do you think USA versus international format would make players more willing to compete? And do you think that it would make fans more interested? And then we'll kind of get down into who we think the lineups would be and how that would come out.
It's actually funny because I definitely heard the point being made, on some media that I watched.
Hey, hold on, Al. Hold on. Let me
Yeah.
interrupt you for a second. You getting dark, bro. You got a light there? I
Yeah,
can't
give me a quick
lose
second.
me. Okay, thanks. Awesome. There we go.
Yeah, sorry about that.
You're good.
But yeah, it's the point of, it's on the players. Like it 100% is on the players, and I think you kind of see with the newer generation that they haven't put as much interest into it. And if you see one superstar young player start to really start going hard in the All-Star game, I think it can ignite something. And I think doing a different format could be interesting. And I think it could, if you get them to buy in on, all right, like there's some street cred that we need to get here. There's needs some respect that we need to get here. I think that might be a better pool of, like, USA has to stay on top than what the current format is. But I mean, you really just got to get the players to buy in.
Yeah, and that was kind of my question. I think in a USA versus international format, maybe national pride comes in and pushes these guys a little bit. Like, damn, we can't go out here and get waxed. This is supposed to be our game, and the world is coming over here and dominating. So, let's talk a little bit about who we think would come out on top of something like that. So, I put together who I thought would be a starting five for international in USA, and so let's go ahead and run that down. For international at the point guard, obviously we got SGA. He's Canadian. He's probably second in the running for MVP this year, and as you see, he's an absolute problem. Um, we got Luka, which is so funny. When Luka started and they were making these Larry Bird comparisons, I really didn't like it. But the more I watch him, I'm like, man, he's tough. No one can really stop him from getting to his spot, even though he's not athletic. Wemby, Wemby is doing things we've never seen from a guy of that stature and this early in his career. Obviously, we know about Giannis, the Greek freak. Um, what else can we say about Giannis, right? He doesn't have the deepest bag at all, but the guy can go. Joker, he can do it all. Obviously, I think that as good as he is, a lot of that has to do with the fact that he plays in a terrible center era, a terrible big man era. So if you transported him back to, I always like 1993. He, he might be getting 15 a game and 8 or 9 rebounds, but he wouldn't be doing what he's doing, obviously because no coach back then is going to allow him to basically run point. And then, of course, the competition at center, David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal, Alonzo Mourning, Mount Mutombo, all these guys, like he's not doing what he's doing. So credit to Jokic for doing what he's doing in this era. He can only play against who he can play against. He was born when he was born. He didn't ask for that. But when we talk about Jokic on that all time, let's hold up on that. But anyway, the point is, I think that is an elite starting five. You have scoring, you have shooting, you have defense, you have shot blocking, you have rebounding, you have passing, and it seems like you got a lot of guys who are really smart basketball players as well. So now going to the United States starting five, I think obviously Steph Curry, you can't have and obviously this is all providing everybody's healthy. You can't have a team going up against the world without Steph. Jason Tatum, who I think his lack of aggression holds him back sometimes. He's so smooth and he's so good, but if he had Jaylen Brown's dog, I think he'd probably be unstoppable. When he's healthy, Kawhi Leonard is probably the best player in the game. I mean, he's clearly the best two-way player in the game when he's healthy, and he's just super strong. He can defend. He can score from all levels. He's a problem. Kevin Durant. What more is there to say about the Slim Reaper? Right? Tremendous offensive skill set. Not the greatest defender, but super hard to guard. And of course, LeBron James, the ageless, and I've also heard him called bagless wonder. LeBron, he does his thing. We know he's going to do what he does. So that I think would probably be the starting five for United States team. Before I got on, you actually were telling me Embiid also for the United States. I wasn't aware of that. I kind of looked at Embiid is still an international player. I think he's a dual citizen, but you were telling me that Embiid is supposed to be on the U.S. Olympic team coming up here.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, and yeah, he's supposed to play with Team USA, so he could be, a starting five candidate, and
right.
I'm not exactly sure who you replace, but yeah, definitely can make it a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, because I'll tell you what, if Embiid's on that team, he's gonna eat Jokic's lunch, as we have seen multiple times.
Absolutely.
He's the only guy that Jokic can't deal with. I think that's styles make fights, right? That's always such an interesting matchup. But when they play, he gets it handed to him. He being Jokic. All right, so let's go now. Who actually wins this game, Wajid?
I mean, definitely if it's competitive, it's hard to say because, like, the reason why you see USA has been better, like in the Olympics, like why they've been able to catch goals is because they have such special players that you have to guard them. And they've gotten so good, that they've started to play the game, kind of smart, but they're like ridiculous. So you have to guard each individual player, maybe double team, and like, they just make it a matchup nightmare. And then what you're seeing with like the best international players that are in the NBA, I mean, their skills have started to get ridiculous. I mean,
Hmm.
you look at SGA. I mean,
Hmm.
he's so nice. Like I
Yeah.
like his game a lot.
Yeah.
And then I mean, Wemby for what, he's 19 years old. Like
Hmm.
it was ridiculous. He's got full bag of tricks,
Hmm.
and I mean,
At 7'4".
yeah, I mean, he
Yeah.
jumps from basically the free throw line and dunks it, and like you
Hmm.
can't really guard it. So it's like I see Team USA being super dangerous on offense, and I see kind of the older heads being like, all right, like we're gonna think the game a little bit more, get some really good shots, but I might have to give it to international just because
Hmm.
like you see them play with a little bit more pride,
Hmm.
and you also got like really intelligent play and
Hmm.
just ridiculously skilled. Like I think is kind of is matching up to a point where I would say maybe 6 out of 10 times I see international winning.
Wow. Okay. So one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on here, is because obviously, like I said in the intro, you and I, we went to school together at University of North Florida. You grew up in the American basketball system, high school, AAU, all that, college basketball, 4 years. Cool. So you know how we train and how we raise our players on this side. But then you played professionally overseas, so you got to have a look at what's going on over there, how their players are developed, how their players are raised, how their players are trained, but you got to see it from the inside. So I want to ask you, tell us about some of the big differences in American versus international basketball culture, and then in American versus international basketball training, and maybe some of that lends to the differences that we're actually seeing on the floor.
Yeah, so um, I would definitely say that from what I experienced, overseas, there was much more of a heavy, just kind of like they definitely emphasized heavily playing smart basketball.
Okay.
Like if you crossed up somebody and then you accidentally lost the ball out of bounds, you're out really quickly. And
Hmm.
so like I will say, when Americans go and play overseas, from the situations I've seen, the coaches put up with Americans, but
Hmm.
they don't love how they play. They emphasize smart basketball. They want basically Spurs style basketball where you
Right.
pass the ball 15 times, there's two
Hmm.
seconds left on the shot
Hmm.
clock, but somebody's absolutely butt naked wide open, and that's the shot that you get. Like that's the way that they want to play offense. And I wouldn't say it's slow and deliberate, but it is definitely more deliberate, and they definitely emphasize getting a really good shot, and they definitely penalize bad shots a lot more over there than they do in the US.
Hmm.
And the thing you're starting to see is they don't work as much on skill development. That's why you see USA players still being a hot commodity everywhere around the world. I mean, every country you go to, you'll probably see at least one American player, getting a contract and making more money than the domestic players, because they see that we come in and we've worked on skills. We may have some fundamentals, but our skills are usually at a higher level than they are overseas. But something that's kind of starting to create a little bit more is you're starting to see highly skilled players. I mean, just like we were talking about Wemby at
Mhm.
19, like this dude is ridiculous. Like,
Yeah, I didn't believe in him when all the hype and before, but the more I'm seeing him, I'm like, damn, this kid can do some stuff. I think what gets me with Wemby, and this is probably different from most people, is defensively. Like, he gets out there and he's all the way out on the perimeter. You know, everything. Of course, NBA, everybody darn near wants to switch to pick and roll, but the way he can recover with his length and still protect the rim, that's special. That's special.
yeah, I mean, like the thing is, it's funny because like we bigs, back in the day,
Hmm.
their job was low post
Hmm.
and 15-footer. Like that's
Hmm.
where they ate. They could make 1-2 dribbles. They weren't pounding the ball at all. But now, like the way bigs move and like the handles that they have is just it's ridiculous. And so you see probably not as good of centers as you used to,
Hmm.
just because the game has definitely become a lot more guard dominated.
Hmm.
And so if you do see a tall player, that's really good, it's because, they play like a guard, like
Hmm.
essentially Jokic plays like a guard. He
Hmm.
just happens to be 7 foot and he can use his body extremely well in the post.
Hmm.
So it makes him so much more dangerous because the bigs now are mostly just lob threats,
Hmm.
just straight bigs that don't have, the crazy skills. They're lob threats and defenders. That's it.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's just crazy because you're really starting to see them have like special skills that they're really starting to work on overseas. And I mean, USA they're gonna have some issues, and probably the next few upcoming Olympics. I think we'll
Hmm.
still get it this year, but I think it's going to be a lot tighter.
I agree. So you played in Estonia, Israel, and Greece. Did you find kind of your thoughts pretty much the same throughout Europe in terms of the way they play and the way they coach the game?
Uh, yeah, man. It's crazy because in college, we definitely prioritized having your body ready to go for the game. You wanted to be, feeling your body at the best at the game. Practice. We worked and practiced, but we definitely saved our bodies for the game. And then,
Hmm.
overseas, you you killed your body every day in practice,
Hmm.
and like you hoped your body was good for the game. And so, like it was just like, man, like you got home from practice and like all you wanted to do is just lay in your bed and just like do nothing else because you was just tired. But I
I think
mean,
the mentality is kind of, make practice as hard as it can be so the games are easy. Like that's what you hear a lot from the old school coaches. And
yep, yep. That was exactly the mentality, and so that was definitely very consistent.
hmm.
Um, and then the type of team that I played on, they started to utilize bigs that were more speed and not as tall, and that was kind of more the position I played.
Hmm.
So they that was kind of like a little bit of a difference of something you started to see a little bit more. And there were a few big time name players that were bigs that were under 6'7",
Okay.
that were they made a huge name in Europe and they won
Hmm.
a bunch of championships and stuff like that. And so you start to see them try to play a little bit more fast pace because they see the advantage of not just having somebody that moves at 1 mile per hour, because that's
Hmm.
usually what bigs look like. But
Hmm.
with Wimby is ridiculous.
Yeah, he's different. Real quick, you mentioned that traditional bigs. So Zach Edey from Purdue, kind of gonna digress a little bit. He's more traditional big. What type of success, or do you not see him having success in the NBA on the next level? Because he's got to go next year. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, I will say I've seen a little bit of his game, not enough
Mhm,
to like really, really like know how dangerous or not dangerous he could be.
mhm.
But just kind of makes me think of a dude, Luca Garza.
Yep,
You
I saw
know,
that you played against him in Iowa,
yeah, I played against him,
and
and
he
I
can't get off
mean,
the bench in Minnesota. It's tough
that's
because
what
he was good.
yeah, I mean, he's got a game. Like he's
Mhm.
not a scrub,
Right.
but you just see that quickness that
Mhm,
players have now,
mhm,
and that's the way the NBA game is played. And so if he's not, from what I've seen,
mhm.
he's not moving,
Yeah, yeah.
at that same pace. So I could see him having some huge issues. But best case scenario for him, he becomes kind of like a Jokic, and like they're able to slow the game around him.
Mhm,
It definitely had to be a coach that is all in on him. Like they're like, this is the guy, this is how we're gonna play. We're gonna play through him. It can be dangerous because you're not really seeing bigs that can guard that type of play
mhm.
anymore. And so he could be dangerous, but if they're not all in on him, he'll be another Luka Garza.
Okay, okay, cool. So what I would normally do right now is go ahead and break between topics and try to get some calls in, but we only got a couple people in the chat watching the show, so we'll go ahead and we'll move it on to the next topic. All right, so this was something I thought was really interesting, and I definitely wanted to get your opinion on this. So, um, the other day, maybe yesterday, I was going through doing some research and stuff for the show, and something came across my timeline, and it was an article in which Ron Harper, who he was a problem early on as he's shooting guard for the Cleveland Cavaliers and then Los Angeles Clippers, and then he blew out his knee, and after that, robbed of a lot of his athleticism, but he ended up going and playing and I believe three-peating with the Bulls, the second three-peat, Ron Harper. And so in 1996, after Bulls beat the Sonics, that was his first championship. And so this was an article, and I'm going to read a quote from it. I thought this was really interesting. He says, quote, this is Ron Harper talking, quote, we were in the locker room after celebrating, and I told Michael, hey, that's my first championship. I'm done. He said, you're done? Nah, this is my fourth championship ring. We have to win two more. I need to have one more ring than Magic, unquote. Now, Larry Bird, I'm sorry, Michael Jordan came in the league in 1984, and by that time, Larry Bird had just won his second championship. Magic had, I believe, two championships already, and so those guys were running the league. And Michael Jordan came in like a house on fire, averaged 28 a game as a rookie of the year. By 1990, he had already had a couple of MVPs. He had a Defensive Player of the Year multiple times. All defensive first team, blah, blah, blah. Y'all know the stats on Michael Jordan. Anyway, Michael Jordan goes on to become the guy that most people think is the greatest player of all time. But what happens is this, right? Moving forward, we have a guy like LeBron James who has had one of the most incredible careers in the history of the NBA. And LeBron James, from myself and from others, kind of often bears the brunt as being the face of the league for the last 10 to 15 years for the condition of the modern NBA game. But here's where I'm going to go ahead and digress a little bit. I was thinking about this whole thing, and it made me wonder after reading that article, is Michael Jordan the one who's really responsible for the current state of the National Basketball Association, not LeBron? And I'm going to give you my thoughts on that, and then I'm going to get your thoughts, Al. So the reason I said, let me think about this. So the first thing was that Ron Harper quote when Michael Jordan says, this is my fourth championship ring. We have to win two more. I need to have one more ring than Magic. Now, you can look at that two ways. You can look at it as that was the beginning of the ring culture in terms of grading guys' greatness on championships and how many they have accrued. Or you can say Michael was just, I mean, as we know, he's the most psychomaniacal competitive in everything. I've heard the story, I think it was in The Last Dance, about him like flipping quarters in the locker room with the security
Yeah.
guy. He was crazy in that. When he was in the Dream Team, David Robinson tells this story. he wanted to bet guys on the dream team about whose luggage would come out from under the plane first, right? But here's the wild thing. It was later found out that he wanted to bet guys whose luggage would come out first, but if he got you to bet, he would go and pay the bag person to bring his luggage out first. Like that's how crazy this dude was about competing when it came to everything, right? A lot of people don't know Michael Jordan, obviously he didn't win it, but he competed in the 3-point shootout at All-Star Weekend. He obviously competed, I think, 2 or 3 times in the dunk contest. They asked him why he did that, because he wanted to show everyone that he was better than them at everything. So I bring all this up to say, the guy was crazy competitive. So we can look at it that way, or we can say that was the start of the ring chasing culture, because Bill Russell is the greatest winner we've ever seen. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar also has 6 championships, but nobody ever really talks about the number of championships either of those guys have. They just talk about the totality of their career. So often Michael Jordan gets boiled down to 6 for 6 in the finals and 6 finals MVPs, which is, we know, phenomenal, because it also includes 2 three-peats, right? Which insane, right? He goes, plays a completely different sport, comes back and dominates again, right? But again, I think it's crazy because that is the start of chasing championships, and championships being, unfortunately, the be-all end-all of how you are regarded as a player. And I don't know if he intended to do that, but it seems like that might have been the start. Also, we look at Michael Jordan and we say, okay, he's the primary reason that hand checking is gone. He hated it when Derek Harper would hand check him. They used to say Derek Harper had a hand check like a vice grip, and he was super strong and he could move you wherever he wanted you to go. And Mike really used to complain about that. They took the hand check away. We also see that Michael Jordan is he is the greatest isolation player in the history of the game. You got Mike, and then probably closely behind him is Kobe, and you got your D Wades and James Hardens and your McGrady's, and now Kyrie and Allen Iverson, all these guys, right? But Michael Jordan was without question the greatest ISO player, and he kind of gave birth to a whole next generation of elite ISO players, kind of getting away from the team ball, right? Obviously, Michael Jordan at his best played in the triangle, but still, when in doubt, get the ball to Mike and kind of move out of the way. So all these things, I think, are so interesting, and they may have led to LeBron feeling all that pressure and being, I'm not going to say forced, but feeling all that pressure and then moving to, the super team era, right? And we remember that.
We also know you 3 kings came down here to win championships. Not 1, championships.
Not 2.
LeBron, tell us about that.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
So clearly he got a little carried away there, right? He was, super excited. But the point is, a lot of people, myself included, really get on LeBron for ushering in the super team era. And of course, he would say super teams have always existed, and they did, but they were organization created, not player created. And I will go to my grave saying that's 2 different things and it's not the same. But okay, I've been yapping for a while. What are your thoughts on my take that maybe Michael Jordan is responsible for the current state of the NBA?
Yeah, so I mean, I will say it's definitely a byproduct of Michael Jordan. I think the story that's been developed, I mean, especially everybody looking at The Last Dance, and you just see like the storybook kind of career that Michael Jordan had, like just he was presented with a challenge and then he overcame it. He presented with the challenge and then he overcame it, and he just kind of kept pushing that agenda. And he's like, I'm going for more. I'm going for more. I'm going for more. And I think, of course, everybody wants to win, but I think, you started to see that and you're just like, man, like, this dude is special. There are people that have that idea of they want to push for more, but it's just not a possibility. Like it's just,
Okay.
like not everybody can say that and want to do that. And so I think because of his career and because of how worldwide loved he was, you see the Jordan brand worth billions of dollars. You just like the entire lifestyle, everything that was associated with Michael Jordan. He had a few things that were, kind of got a little bit of bad press, but outside of that, I mean, just absolutely loved, absolutely everywhere around the world. Like,
yeah. I mean, check it out. He was probably the second most famous person in the world after Michael Jackson. And this is before the internet.
Yep.
That's absurd.
Exactly. And so with that, people look at that and they're like, yeah, they made a movie. I want to be like Mike. You know what I'm saying? Like, who doesn't want to be like Mike? I want to be like Mike. Like, I definitely, wish I could have, done those types of things and, try to put myself in that position. Like, everybody definitely, it was created by a byproduct of what he did, because it was just so amazing that media kind of grabbed in on this and they were like, wow, this was really amazing. Like, we have to treasure this. We have to see this as special. We have to talk about how amazing that was, and the love and everything that he got. It was just incredible. And so I think, a bunch of players, they just kind of saw that and they were like, man, like, I want to be some version of that. Like, I want to get the same glory that Michael Jordan had. And so I think, like, that was kind of created where you saw, some of the best players, they were like, you know what? I'm not just trying to be a really good player, that gets paid a lot of money. I want to be like Mike. Like, I want to be cemented in legacy, statues, absolutely everything. And I think you kind of see, LeBron, he pushed for that. He didn't just, take his MVPs and then, possibly just get one championship. He was like, nah, like, I gotta push that agenda where you see me as the face of the league. And I think it's kind of that face of the league, like, everybody's kind of trying to go towards that. And it's definitely a byproduct of Mike, but it's not like he was just like, oh, I want the NBA to look like this. It was just all the fanfare around him. It's like, how could you not want that?
No, I hear you, and that's a great assessment. All of that. I'm just looking at it now, and I'm thinking like, I'm thinking like, this is an odd situation because for all of this was something that I'm really forced to really seriously reevaluate for all of my thoughts about how much the NBA, for how talented the players are currently, how much the level of play has dissipated, and how much the sport itself is not nearly as competitive as it once was. I really have to sit back and say, how much blame, to our discussion right now, does Michael Jordan really have for this? And that's tough, because especially when you're someone who grew up, you didn't, but I did. I grew up in that Michael Jordan era, and he is clearly, in my estimation and the estimation of many current players, the greatest of all time. And I say that not, assuming, but last year The Athletic did a survey and 58% of current NBA players still have Michael Jordan as the greatest player of all time. I think followed by LeBron at like 33%. So the point I'm trying to make is, as great as Michael Jordan is, there really may be some legitimate concern about the role that he played. And I think because of, like you said, be like Mike, and how dominant he was as a player in terms of the winning, and completely, when he hit his peak and he hit the mountaintop, shutting down so many other all-time greats from getting a championship, Stockton and Malone, and obviously Gary Payton and Sean Kemp, and Olajuwon got the 2 chips while Jordan was out, and Drexler got his championship with Dream while Jordan was out, and so Charles Barkley, a lot of guys who are Hall of Famers and all-time greats, not only at their position but in the game period, guys who did not and could not win because Michael Jordan simply would not let them. And so, with all of that, I think maybe all of that does some protection of him in terms of maybe the harm that his elite play and his dominance could have done to the game. And now we're seeing so much more of that because, again, to your point, LeBron realized, hey, I got to do what I got to do now. And now I'm not one for the way that he went about it. I personally think that was skirting competition, and it made it cool for other guys to skirt competition. See Kevin Durant with the Warriors, right? But I don't have a whole lot of respect for that. I think if you're a player of that ilk and you're an all-time great that way, you should want to go at dudes joining up. Nah, but again, different era and just a different situation entirely. But this whole thing really makes me sit back and reassess and wonder, how much blame does Michael Jordan have to shoulder for the current condition of the game?
Well, like I said, I feel like, in my estimation, it used to be, before Jordan, the Showtime Lakers. It was the Boston Celtics. They had teams where, like, they just had this standard of teams being followed. And then, now you got, after Michael Jordan, players a little bit more starting to be followed. And then, of course, with the advent of social media, like, you really have players individually being followed. Like people have favorite teams, but it is usually centered more now around who their favorite player is and what team they're currently on. And so that's kind of, the team aspect has really gone away, and it is 100% more player led. And because people have their own individual brands, and they're had the potential of being multi-billionaires from kind of maneuvering the system of the NBA of stardom there well enough. Like, it's ridiculous. I'm trying to think, like a dude like Trey Young, he's special. Like, his game is really nice. I like him, but he's not, an all-time great. He's not, I think he's absolutely special. Like, I love his game for his size. He's incredible. Like, I really like his game, but yeah, I don't think anybody's pushing for him to be in an all-time great category. But he's built this brand about himself because of how good he is. He's a star in the NBA, and I don't think he'll reach the billionaire status, but like he very well could do that. And it's kind of insane because they have so valued the individual that it's like, man, like, I am starting to more see this as individual instead of team. And so that's definitely where you're starting to see, that's that modern NBA of this individual is over everything. And that's a huge huge issue. Like, people jacking up shots because they want to have them be the guy and make all the money and stuff like that.
That's right.
It was actually one of the things that I was worried about with college sports and the NIL deals. Is college sports, you still saw that, like, team, like, it's team. But now with NIL deals, it's starting to become more individual. And there's that beauty of, following a team and, like, seeing a team come together and putting team above self. But it
could be argued that in college, all these programs don't put team above self, right? All these programs and you played, so these programs make a lot of money off of these athletes, and so I'm 50-50 on it. That's a whole different discussion, but
definitely,
I hear where you're coming from.
Yeah, but it's definitely very interesting to say that Michael Jordan definitely did he had a good amount of good amount of blame to where the NBA is now. But I mean, I would say probably the highest blame is media, and even more now social media. Like it's gotten crazy, and it's interesting because you see some new things that are very interesting about basketball. I do feel like it's definitely become more entertainment than
Absolutely.
just basketball now.
Hmm. I actually heard Gilbert Arenas say that on his show, that it's entertainment, and so I think that it's always been entertainment. For instance, Magic was the ultimate showman, right? We know that. But he also was he was another one that was a crazy competitor, really trying to beat your head in and win even when he was smiling, So I think if you are the player, you can find the balance between entertainment but still being a competitor. And I'm just wondering, where has that gone?
I mean, I think there's only one team that wins the championship each year, and there's only one player that's considered the best player on the championship team.
Mm-hmm.
And so are you the chances of, a star, being able to be in that position is not it's not that likely. There's only one team, there's only one player that's going to be considered
Mm-hmm.
the best on a championship team. So it's like you're fighting for that, but you realize, hey, that's really not as likely as, me making the most out of what I currently have. And so you you see the competitor, but you also like, hey, I can make a really nice situation for myself if I go this route instead of being the ultimate competitor, the ultimate, and you don't even really have to be ultimate team player, but really driving the team to a certain level. And I think that's why you have seen, more international players being the best team, being the best player on championship teams, because they appreciate some fanfare, but it's really like, I mean, you see how hard Giannis goes for
Mm-hmm.
everything. Is
Yeah.
like for him is it's like that's it's like he doesn't have any food and that's his lunch. Like
Right.
he
Yeah.
goes for it, and
Right.
like that's what he's interested in. Like
Mm-hmm.
Jokic, you see him, I mean, it's crazy because the way he moves, like he's not like the most athletic guy, but he
Right.
goes for it. Like he
Mm-hmm.
he, he pushes himself,
Mm-hmm.
every single game or anything like that. And the international players seem to get it a little bit more that, hey, they really want to push for it. And I mean, yeah, all this fanfare is nice, but championship is what I'm going for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, listen, Al-Wajid, man, thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and call it here. Like I said at the beginning, this was a short one. Only had the two topics, and don't have a huge number of people in the chat. By the way, if you're in the chat, thank you for showing up. I appreciate that. Make sure you click that like on the way out. All that stuff definitely helps us. So make sure you click that. And yeah, we're going to come back. Obviously, there will be more episodes during the week of the show, and there will be another live next Saturday night. So I'm going to go ahead and get off here and let you guys go ahead and check out the NCAA tournament. Matter of fact, I think Caitlin Clark's getting ready to play here on the women's side, and then
Played earlier.
Oh, yes, yeah, 29 and 15. That's right. I missed that. I'm running around with the family. But I know, oh no, Juju Watkins is getting ready to play. So that's
Yeah,
another one that's a problem. And she's just a freshman.
she's special.
Yeah,
She's special.
very. Absolutely. And then of course, I think we've got UConn and Illinois tonight also. So definitely gonna be some flipping back and forth. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the rest of watching some sports tonight. If you're celebrating Easter tomorrow, happy Easter. If you are one of my Muslim brothers and sisters celebrating Ramadan Kareem. And if you are one of my Jewish brothers and sisters who have just finished Passover a few days ago, I hope you had a wonderful, healthy, and happy Passover. So Enjoy all that, and I'll be back with you next episode. Again, Albert G, thanks so much, and I'm out.
Absolutely.
Peace.
Peace.